And we are ready to go for the first time this season after a relatively long break over the holiday months, the period. I'm Isaac. Joining me today is Kai for the return of some Ember Cinder League action here in the very first week of Ember Esports. Kai, thank you for joining us tonight for this one.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for co-casting with me. Yes, first week, first day, inaugural games are always an exciting time. Really can set the whole tone for your season, for better or for worse. So, like you mentioned, long break. So I'm excited to see the players play. You know, after a little bit of time, especially new season, a lot has changed. So there's a bit of rust to be shaken off, a bit of adjustment that needs to be made, and we'll see exactly what sort of League of Legends we're going to be seeing here today. Best of 3 game.
Speaking of new changes for Ember Cinder League, we are moving over to Fearless for this league. She's definitely going to be offering up quite a few new challenges coming into this one because our teams for tonight are GCCe Hyrulean Heroes, and on, GCCe will be getting side selection. Phantom Troupe Lucifer, the other team that's facing up against Phantom Troupe Lucifer, our Season 1 champions. That being said, even though they did win last time around, the team is a little bit different. Rapid Sammy, who we saw in chat a bit earlier, hello, was their jungler last time around, did rank out of the IBSG range. So instead, they picked up Dragon and Out, who actually did quite good last season for White Lotus Wisteria, but we're getting straight into draft. Not a lot of time to really cover who are going in because Rumble, Malphite, and Hash already picked up. Well, between these two teams, GCCe going for the Rumble, Phantom Troupe Lucifer going for the Malphite and Hash.
Yeah, I'm not too shocked to see Rumble's a pretty powerful top lane at the moment, and Dragon It Out has quite a few games on the champion already this season. As for the Malphite Ashe bans, Ashe has banned for the side of Phantom because of Phlox played. It's their most played game in rank so far this season, as well as Malphite is just an incredibly easy to execute champion that can actually be flexed 2 roles at the moment. Currently, I'd probably even say he's more powerful in jungle, and a level 6 Malphite all popping directly onto your dashless AD carry is a great way to lose a team fight. But we're seeing further selections coming in. Sivir and Leona for Hyrulean Heroes. What do you make of those picks?
I mean, Leona is a strong engage support. Sivir gives you that safe amount of scaling, and you know it gets you that lock in on the bot lane early. One that typically doesn't mind as much about the counter pick going either way, but it does look like we have a little bit of issues with the bans showing. So to confirm, it is Varus, Jace, Aurora, Ryze, Jinx, and Caitlyn all taken away. As we get through that, the Rel will be locked in for PTL.
Yeah, Rel into Leona. We've got some good double engaged champion. Makes sense to me. Ashe is a champion that can really punish a melee support early on in the game with that frost shot slow, really making it so if Leona uses her Zenith Blade to engage, she is in. There is really no escape. Once you get hit level 6, sure, Sivir's on the hunt can kind of help you a little bit, but even then, when Leona needs to be very careful in picking their fights because you have that going in button, you no longer have an escape. So we'll see how that plays out for the 2v2 bot lane. Obviously, Sivir can be quite scary late game. Those ricochet shots can really shred through entire team. But we do see, Malphite Rel can both build quite a bit of armor. That being said, currently, Hyrulean Heroes has quite the mixed damage output at the moment. So we'll have to see what the second phase of picks look like before we can determine if itemization is an effective counter to the marksman of Hyrulean Heroes. For the bans coming out, we have Jinx and Ryze for this side of Phantom, and Hyrulean's banning Irelia and Thinking at the moment for the last ban of the game.
Yeah, but I mean, you talked about the Rumble and this mixed damage as the Renekton gets taken away. It's one of those champions that at the IBSG level that you just look at and you always get a little bit scared when you see it locked in. I think of that alongside with for Azir's another one of those champions that it's certainly not impossible for, I mean, whether that's T-Dye or Kagrin picking up, more than likely going to be in the top lanes. It typically is, though we have seen a little bit of jungle rumble in the wheelhouse of especially dragging it out. But it is definitely one that I always just kind of, it piques my interest. That makes me a little bit concerned and just early on. But as we go through, Yone going to be picked up by Phantom Troupe Lucifer.
Yeah, for sure. Though that being said, Rumble like Malphite, at least at the end of the day, you have an R button that makes things happen. That can be incredibly helpful in these sort of situations. Classic mid lane champions being picked here. Ari Yone. Melee versus range, you expect Ari to have quite the advantage in the push early. Yone with his E makes himself quite difficult to really pin down. He uses abilities properly. That's the nice thing with Yone. When you're into the mages, that you are able to usually even actually secure quite the gritty push and even do some tower damage, and then just be able to bungee cord way back out to safety. Crucially, Ari will get the pro push early regardless. So Ari will have some early roam to kind of try and match up with their jungler and try and make some PvP happens to get some early advantages in the river. On the flip side, if the Yone gets a lead and he's able to just ult into Sivir, really, mostly. Like, if you look at Hyrulean Heroes comp, they've got 3 melee champions and Ari, who's incredibly mobile, and a Sivir. So during these team fights, Yone's goal is going to be get on the Sivir and kill them. That being said, if there's enough of gold lead, you can also just front to back, and no doubt that will also be effective, but that's going to be a crucial point of concern for the marksmen of Hyrulean Heroes, is making sure that they are able to keep themselves safe from the Ashe ult, from the Rel engage, from the Yone engage, from the Malphite engage, and Mal's unlucky in range, but sure, that could also happen. But if you're noticing a pattern, that's because there is one. There is a lot of engage for Phantom.
Yeah, Phantom Troupe Lucifer definitely has a lot of press R buttons that, or I guess press R champs that really make the magic happen, especially if you can land a few of them. If you can hit an Enchanted Crystal Arrow from range, can definitely start things out. Rel as well. The Crash Down combined with the Magnet Storm can absolutely disrupt the team. And obviously the famous rock solid Malphite with the Unstoppable Force. There's plenty of options for Phantom Troupe Lucifer to be able to start fights on a moment's notice. Meanwhile, on the side of GCCe, I mean, gosh, what a mouthful of a name. On the side of the Hyrulean Heroes, is that they do actually have quite a few tools to be able to counter set engage. I mean, if Ari isn't blown up immediately, the Spirit Rush does allow her to create space for herself. Sivir obviously has a spell shield, and if you get a little bit too far forward, a really good equalizer from Rumble can, do just exactly what the name suggests.
Yeah, I would just like to say, I made the mistaken assumption that Yone was going mid. The Malzahar pick suggests it's actually going to be Yone top into Rumble. I'm not convinced it's the right call, and the reason why is that, like I mentioned, Malphite, Rel, Ashe ult, Yone, you have this clear engage comp, and Malzahar doesn't really fit that angle. Sure, you can catch someone, but that's not really the identity of the champion. In addition, I imagine this is a comfort pick more than anything else. Potentially, I imagine, because Malzahar into Ari, you do suffer from Ari is able to break your spell shield passive very easily using her Foxfire. In addition, her Orbit Deception is very potent at clearing your little crabs, right? So, I don't know, but at the end of the day, Malzahar has a point-and-click ultimate that says you don't get to play the game for a couple seconds, and Ari does struggle into that. And with the engage tools Phantom has access to, you could very clearly punish it down, but yeah, that's my point of contention for the draft of Phantom. I think I like Phantom's draft. It has a very clear identity, except for this last pick of theirs. On the flip side, Hyrulean Heroes draft has less of an inherent identity, except, I mean, when you've got a lot of melee champs and someone whose ultimate says you guys all get percentage movement speed increase, like, that's pretty fun. Maybe they'll all engage on Sivir, and Sivir will go, okay, great. I throw their team like Pokemon and have them all run down the Ashe. Like, we'll have to see how these team fights play out. Certainly lots of angles to play out, lots of flank opportunities from Yone and Ashe to try and engage on these back lines. But I will note that these are actually like relatively low damage comps, excluding the marksman. Obviously Rumble can melt a front line, but he does typically kind of lose some damage potential as the game goes on. Likewise, Malphite and Malzahar aren't exactly known for their insane damage output the way a champion, like a battle mage would, like Riser Cast, right? Or Azir, or even, top lane champs, such as, trying to think of a good example here, and I'm kind of struggling, but I mean, the Aurelia that was banned, right? Like these champions that can really do some strong skirmishing. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, for instance, how like a Malphite Malzahar 2v2 is able to get things done in the early to mid game without like a clear damage source. So I expect mid lane or bot lane probably will actually be pretty crucial for getting much done on objectives early in the game.
We'll just have to wait and see. We are hitting the spectator delay, which we'll send it to. But when we come back, we'll hopefully to have some exciting Ember Cinder League action. We know it was definitely that way in Season 1. If we can continue on with some absolute bangers in Season 2 to start out, it would be great to see. But obviously, we're going to go to that, and we'll see you on the other side of it. So don't go anywhere. low on the reaction. Not going to quite fully capitalize on the crash down from Dark Archon, which is perhaps a little bit to be expected. Barbar Jonks, very notably, was the mid laner for Phantom Troupe Lucifer in their championship win last season. Though he did play a few of those marksmen in the mid lane. Perhaps still adjusting, but talking about showing up in the bot lane. Kagrin has arrived. Barbar Jonks knocked by the Zenith. Blade Pillar comes up. Barbar still holding on to the flash as long as possible, but Dark Archon now the target taken low. Crash down shield won't be enough to keep him alive, but the slow from Dark Archon will ensure that the kill goes back the other way in a 1v1.
Yeah, so the Hawkeye spotted out the camp, so they knew that where Trundle was pathing. In addition, there was a ward in that tri-brush that Trundle walked over, so they had the additional reaction speed to play. Leona did engage early enough that they were still forced to fight, but the real winner of this is actually Malphite, who gets a double scuttle as a result of his support being traded for enemy jungle.
He's also heading top.
Yeah.
How low those health bars are. If Phantom Troupe Lucifer Sanctum can get close enough to be able to set up a gank, could work out quite nicely. However, there's not a lot of easy setup just yet. Pre-level 6 for both these champions. So not quite going to amount to much there, other than the ability to get the wave shoved in.
Yeah, which is great for the side of Lucifer as a result of you mentioned that Rumble was pushing Yone early. This allows Yone to get that early base with proper wave push, so he'll get to back to lane, lose no minions,
daggers.
And stabilize. Triple daggers, all you have to see it. Oh, engage coming in from Rel. Spell
doesn't hit Ballistic Demon. And the target was the Ballistic Demon, ideally. Be able to get the knock up there onto the low ADC. But, Flock on Leona gets a bunch of resistances just by pressing W, so it'll be fine there.
Yeah, the triple dagger is actually relatively common bug on Yone, actually, because you have the Berserker's Greave with their updated build path, which requires a couple, and then you have your usual first item of Bork nowadays, which also takes a couple daggers for that recurve bow. So that's what I expect that build path to lead into. I guess we'll just have to see with that. On this other side of the lane, you have double Amp Tome, so you love to see just some stacking of basic components. Who needs item passes when you got just pure base stats? First dragon spawn is a Chemtech dragon. We do see that Trundle's actually a little bit ahead in that first clear. As a result of the additional time that Malphite had to invest in the top gank, it lets Trundle get that bit of a tempo lead. So we'll see if he tries to make anything happen bot lane to try and get priority for this first neutral objective. You see pings coming out from the side of Phantom Troupe, signaling they also have intent of potentially contesting. We'll see. Malphite does the finishing Gromp, and then we'll have nothing else to do, really. But the mid lane push makes it quite difficult for Phantom to get anything done. They will have a very early first round from Ari, who does have the ultimate. So
especially
it looks like this will give.
Out that level 6 available to dragon it out, does mean that there's not really much. Oh, wait, hold on. In the bot lane, stand corrected. A 2v2 kill goes the way of the Rel of Dark Archon. So we're not over here just yet. Flock in trouble, going to get flipped over by Dark Archon, but there's not a lot of follow-up on it. Move our attention back over to the dragon. Kagrin's very low, but the equalizer drops onto Sanctum. Has to flash away from T-Die. Action all over the map. Drake goes the way of Phantom Troupe Lucifer, despite that earlier push that they had, but no flash on Sanctum in the top lane.
Absolutely disastrous for Hyrulean Heroes. Obviously, good job top lane, making a bit of a advantage for your team there. But the fact that, well, it should have been secured off of macro, the fact that the bot lanes went back to their bot lane 2v2 and lost meant that their jungler was forced to back off. So Malphite could just walk in without, I believe at the time level 5, I could be wrong on that, and just was able to just say, okay, 5. This is mine now. Good, and was able to just completely force them off. So, and we see some continued aggression from the bot lane. No slowing down there with the taste of blood in the air.
Yeah, and, Dark Archon goes in, finds a flip, knows Ballistic Demon didn't have the spell shield to be able to stop it. Ballistic Demon, the target of Barbar Jonks, getting slowed so much. Crash down will not be keeping Ballistic Demon alive. That's yet another kill going the way of the bot lane of Phantom Troupe Lucifer, as Flock, he's alright, but his ADC is a no flash, no barrier on the Sivir.
Yeah, it's just, you said, Phantom Troupe recognized the lack of crucial
Snapback's going to come through. Both junglers are here in the top lane. Sanctum will get back to the safety of his tower. We'll be all right for now. T-Dye, having used the equalizer earlier, doesn't really have much to be able to go off of there, especially now as Dragon out hitting level 6, but Sanctum going to have to use his Fate Seal to escape. Not really how you'd want to be using that Yone ult early on.
Yeah, for sure. At least the fact that the Trundle Glacial Pillar came out earlier means that you can't... You do get to escape. Otherwise, Trundle can actually throw a pillar up in front of your ult and kind of stop it. They have to be careful because, of course, Yone ult can go over walls, but you can place it just at the end, so that you actually the distance of your dash is shortened, and you have the slow from your pillar as well, which lets you catch up to them. With especially if you have like your Rumble harpoons firing in at them as well. I would also just like to mention, for my own personal amusement, that so far the top winner Phantom Troupe has purchased 4 daggers and converted them into 2 epic little items. So you love to see it. AD can come later. For now, I got to make sure I can last hit those minions. That's when.
Yeah, you know, attack speed feels really good. It might not be the most useful, but it does feel quite good. I remember when I first started playing League of Legends, my older brother had me play ADC because he was a support main. Mm-hmm. And on Ashe, I would literally only buy attack speed because it felt good.
I know, and then you get your Q, right? And you just see all these arrows go flying.
Yeah, exactly, right? Also, I may or may not have bought one too many Runaan's Hurricanes because Ashe has a bow and that item looks like a bow. But either way, going back to that stacking attack speed, as you said, does feel nice. Is also pretty crucial for the Yone, especially as soon as he gets the Vamp Scepter in his inventory, which is a very big power point for that champion to be able to sustain through the amount of damage that T-Dye will be doing, being able to just ignore the amount of just whittling down that they've been doing so far. Obviously, not quite having it just yet, so we'll have to wait and see. But all the while, Kagrin is arriving once again in the bot lane, but it is spotted out by Barbar and Dark Archon as they back away.
Yeah, I would like to point out that we actually haven't spoken much about mid lane, which I think is great for the Malzahar. That means that the lane has been neutralized. They've been able to just shove out waves on a repeat. You notice about 20 CS up, which does mean they got an early completion on the
Equalizer goes onto absolutely nothing from T-Dye, and so Sanctum going to force a flash away from the top lane of GCCe Hyrulean heroes. Wouldn't be feeling quite good. One of those moments that, as things go on, as he gets more and more lifesteal, will definitely be a lot harder to deal with on the side of GCCe.
Oh, I don't think they know.
Yeah, Unstoppable Force is spell shielded, but there's just too much CC. Won't matter. Flock has to flash away as well. There's nothing really Kagrin can do to be able to stop the onslaught going down here in the bot lane for Phantom Troupe Lucifer. However, they're going to look to find a way in onto Barbar. Jonk Lucifer finds his way in onto all three with the hopes that the tower shots will help out. Barbar taken quite low by Kagrin, but he's not quite dead just yet. Buck B going to use a Spirit Rush. Not quite going to hit any of the marks. Stunned up. Could potentially be burned down, but Dragon Out gone low. Shut down guns its way onto Kagrin. Dragon Out flashing away. Double kill now for Kagrin. Looking for more. Dark Archon will remount just in time before the Orbital Deception hits him. So he will live, but it's a very good counterpunch from GCCe Hyrulean heroes.
Never underestimate the potential of a Trundle to just right-click on you and eat you with that additional attack range you get from the Q. Wow. Yeah, quite turnaround. It looked great. I mean, honestly, it was an amazing lane gank from Phantom Troupe, but yeah, I guess a bit over a step, but maybe perhaps a bit of miscommunication. They didn't look like they were fully aware of Ahri coming down. Of course, Ahri's mobility is incredibly hard to match, and that's the first real effective gank we've been able to see from Ahri. They have been, as I was mentioning earlier, pinned down by the Malzahar very effectively, who has that CS lead, has a few plates, and got that early Seras Embrace, that's time, right? And then which means we'll have a very early Archangel. So that could be quite a powerful tool around this, what's likely to be third dragon, or maybe even potentially as early as Rift Herald. You might have quite the potent increase in AP and then that defensive opportunity from the shield for Malzahar.
Yeah, and also has completed their quest as the Zenith Blade, not quite hitting bar Jonks, but I don't even know if that was one Flog would actually really want all that much. Ballistic Demon getting poked down quite a bit by bar Jonks, and the bot lane, another equalizer not quite going to hit the mark, and is dragging it out is here. T-Die has nowhere to go as he has no flash, and Sanctum picks up a kill.
Yeah, I love the Zeke's convergence from Malphite, especially with all these ultimate combos we're seeing as he ganks both top and bot lane. It really allows, it really ensures that additional fallout from something like a Magnus Storm or a Fate Sealed. It's good to see. I'm glad to see a cheap item in a champion you don't usually get to see it on, right? As the Trundle's looking for a bit of an invade topside
Couldn't look to go in. Flux landing the Zenith Blade, but the ADC of GCCe is a new target. Kagran will find Dragon out. Will let him lock down. Nethergraph's going to lock up Kagran, but doesn't nearly do enough damage. Buckbee has arrived. Won't quite hit the charm onto Treasure, but all the while in the bot lane, Bar Jonks picks up yet another kill. 2-1-4 now on the Ashe.
Yeah, that's so we talked about that Seraph's Embrace earlier, but the thing about it is it's an incredibly potent defensive tool for a mage, but it doesn't actually provide you as much AP as you would want necessarily from first item. So you can see there, especially without having the proper setup for Malzahn, it actually doesn't do much, especially on a target as tanky as Trundle. What you really want to use that for is more as engage for your team, because you know you have that extra like shield to tank a potential like counter punch from a front line, but you do still, of course, will get melted by a high DPS carry. Fighting over this control ward. Crucial vision denial battle.
It's the class. This is the stuff you expect from support players. Sanctum fully going at it on to T-Die. Has access to that Vamp Scepter now. Pretty important one. We'll be able to heal up on that wave, so that damage he's taking isn't exactly permanent. Assuming he can get to the wave, T-Die doing his best to keep Sanctum off of it. Getting him low, Equalizer will drop, will get the flash out of the Yone as well. So Sanctum, despite a few of the earlier Equalizers not quite working out so well, doing a good job there.
Yone will be getting Bork on back, almost certainly here. They have all the components, they just need 400 gold, so I fully expect to see that. No, they don't. So they're actually that's actually very large, or very important that they were pushed back that early. Because now they burnt their TP when they should just be hundreds of golds away from
we
Bork.
finally move up to the top lane. I saw the teleport and Dark Archon coming through, so it was important for Sanctum to be able to use that teleport as early as possible to secure the kill onto T-Die to be able to get that extra gold for himself. As you mentioned, though, doesn't have access to that Bork just yet, and with Rift Herald spawning up, it means he hasn't quite hit that really big power spike just yet, but it is numbers advantage to the side of Phantom Troupe. Lucifer Pillar does come up to try to interrupt things, but the unstoppable force with the Magnet Storm provides so much CC. Not quite enough damage to be able to find the kills just yet. Farcon finally gets the kill there. Double kill for the Rel. Kragan will at least trade one back, but it's a 3-for-1 going the way of Phantom Troupe Lucifer.
Amazing 3-man all combo from the support jungle. That's pretty much fight winning on its own, but I would just like to point out, from bot River, we have Stephen Curry Ashe Arrow landing on the Trundle from halfway across the map just to add that little nail in the coffin to the team fight. And yeah, great conversion. You get the Herald, you get the gold, you get the first turret, and you even have your mid laner rotating bot lane to ensure that the enemy marksman isn't able to get too much gold off of the plates. And all in all, that'll lead to a 4k gold advantage for the red side of the map.
Yeah, Phantom Troupe Lucifer really picking up where they left off. There were a few questions about a few of the new members that we're probably a little bit unfamiliar with, perhaps with Bar Jonks changing their position as well, and how perhaps they would have Dragon It Out fit into this roster, but they've really picked up right where they left off over GCCe Hyrulean Heroes, who, at least according to for Voodoo Mana, who is actually playing in the league this season. So that'll be quite fun to have one of our writers having competing in said league. He had them marked as one of, if not the best team coming into this Ember Cinder League season. So for Phantom Troupe Lucifer to be able to step up against one of the teams that's expected to be doing really good, especially Buckbee in the mid lane, was one that stuck out to me as almost kind of, what are you doing here in Ember Cinder League? But I mean, to be fair, Daddy Treasure has done a really good job of not only keeping up with him, but, outpacing him.
Yeah, for sure. We do have a pause, as I'm sure you've noticed. And so for the moment, you get to experience a little bit of what it is like to live life as a scuttle crab as we
Or a
slowly
frog.
make our way through a river. Our frog.
Yeah, dude, I
Perhaps.
like the little zoom in on the frog there.
Yeah, yeah, we have that.
Thank you,
Yeah, I mean,
thank you, Raven, for bringing us the free cam in this little pause moment. But
yeah,
yeah,
it's a great board. It's a great game state for Phantom Troop, of course. Like I mentioned, you have a nearly 4K gold lead, but it actually is almost more than that. And the reason why I say that is if you look at the roll by roll gold differentials, you'll notice that it is all the red except for 1.6K gold difference in the favor of Trundle. And that's really not where you want your gold if you're Hyrulean heroes. Trundle, can be quite a strong skirmishing champ, but is not exactly where your gold is most likely to scale into the mid to late game. You much rather have that on your RE or Silver or even your Rumble, perhaps, right?
okay, but
And
hear me
that
out.
and that comes as a consequence of Malphite,
Alright.
who's playing a full support role this game, so it really doesn't need that many resources. Okay, but I'm hearing you out now.
Okay, but hear me out. The Trundle on Hyrulean Heroes has a Triforce.
You know what?
name's
You're
in the
right.
game.
I take back everything I've said.
Yeah, have you considered that?
They're going to right click
What
on
really
enemy
matters
carries
here,
and
speaking
win.
of dragging it
Speaking of
out,
which,
the solar flare
one
will
more kill for
drop
the
down
Trundle.
on
Triforce
to dragging it
difference.
out, as you mentioned. Yeah, it's that Triforce. It's the name Synergy, and it's important kill, especially as Drake is spawning now. So there's going to be no smite on the side of Phantom Troop Lucifer without their jungler, which means that the third Drake will go the way of GCCe.
Yeah, they will cross map effect pretty effectively here. Rift Trail being dropped ensures that the top tower is going to go down, and perhaps even a crash on the inner as Hyrulean Heroes is rotated bot lane for that neutral objective. Quick CS check. Malzahar is at 176 CS, a little over 10 a minute, so you love to see it. If you're
T-Dye going half a flash away
right.
from the fate sealed, and his fate would have absolutely been sealed if he got hit by that Yone ultimate. Going to have to use the equalizer just to clear out the wave. But continuing story of the top lane here, Sanctum, putting a lot of pressure on GCC Hyrulean Heroes.
Yeah. Let's see. The next thing to note is 2 minutes 30 for Baron. And we actually haven't seen that many team fights, right? We've seen a few 3v3 skirmishes, I guess 4v3 when you count Ari coming in, but at no point in time did really that many people fight. For Rift Hero, it was kind of there was also a 3v3, but it was, again, Rumble was dead before the fight. So at no point have we seen a proper 5v5 fight, and Baron could be it. And I always like to note that whenever you haven't seen a 5v5 in a game, it's a great opportunity to flip it if you're the team that's behind, because it's a style of play that you have not yet attempted. And when you're losing the 3v3s, it's often a good sign it's time to switch it up, right? So if I'm Hyrulean Heroes here, what I crucially want to do is I want to shove out that bot lane wave so that I can rotate my entire team there and get early positions. So even if I'm behind in gold, I can take a positional advantage and force them to come into me, and maybe take that 5v5 that can flip the game. You do have an on the hunt. You do have some strong melee champions. It's doable. We've seen that they can catch out members, but of course, the Phantom Troop has some very potent ultimates that, if they land them, can kind of decide the team fight all in of themselves.
Yeah, especially T-Dye on this Rumble, one really good equalizer with first item completion is definitely one that can hurt a lot as you start to burn down there. But speaking of burning down, Sanctum is going to be the target. Into play, not quite going to land from Flock. Dragging it out is arriving there to help out his Yone, just in case he gets tapped a little bit. Flock's not going to give up on this play just yet, though. Before he gets to that, Kagran might be in a little bit of trouble. Going to try to find treasure on the Malzahar, but he's alone in this play. Will be hit by the Nether Grasp and dragged under tower by the Magnet Storm. So it's a really easy kill for Daddy Treasure, while Buckby really didn't have the wave there to help out his jungler. Oh wow,
Here
Ballistic
comes Malphite.
Demon will use the spell shield to stop the unstoppable force, but the enchanted crystal arrow lands. Dragon out doing his best to find the last lethal amount of damage onto Ballistic Demon. Not quite going to be able to find it. Now Barbar Jonks, maybe a little bit too far forward. Flock not quite going to go in. This ADC is way too little health to be able to follow up on it. Will actually take a decent amount of damage in return from Barbar.
Yeah, living with the barest margins of life there as a flank comes in from Buckby.
Buckby, though, Barbar getting tagged by the Zenith Blade, won't be able to get out with the cleanse, and with the Spirit Rush, Buckby is able to get out way before Sanctum has even a chance to respawn on the teleport.
The play
Going a bit. It's continuing on, looking for as much as possible. Ballistic Demon taken down to half HP. Sanctum snaps back, flashes in response away from Flock, but he just gets ran down by Kagura, and a shutdown goes its way on to the Trundle.
Yeah, crucial misstep there from Phantom Troupe. I don't believe this is going to convert to a Baron immediately, but it certainly is a shift in gold. Though you'll notice not by actually very much, because this entire time the mid laner Phantom Troupe was just bot lane taking plates. So overall gold actually hasn't shifted all that much, but it does. It's a nice breath of fresh air if you're the Hyrulean hero.
He's just stuck. Enchanted Crystal Hero not quite going to hit the mark onto Kagura. That being said, Unstoppable Force does land, going to do their best to lock up this Trundle as long as possible. Gives it away over to Dragon out. Meanwhile, Ballistic Demon in trouble as the Magnet Storm makes sure he can't go anywhere. Daddy Treasure will be the one to pick up that kill, and Buckby will be spotted out by the Hawk Shot, so they know exactly where this Ahri is. But it's a very slippery champion. But now that they have 2 kills, now that there's no jungler, Phantom Troupe Lucifer moves straight onto the Baron.
Yeah, I like. There's no such thing as a breath of fresh air. You're playing against five very powerful teamfight ults. You'd always have to be watching. But Buckby's going to do what they can.
He's not going to give things up. Gets Daddy Treasure quite low. It's not a very fast take. Finds side Phantom Troupe Lucifer, but Sanctum finds the knockup. Buckby has to flash away, and so any hope of a Buckby 1v5 at the Baron Pit goes begging. Won't quite be able to steal it away, or even at least pick up a few kills, and all 5 members of PTL get that big buff.
I do respect it. The Ashe is taking a decent chunk of damage, and you know that they burnt all their ultimates except for Fate Sealed on your team. So if you play around the unit properly and you dance properly, quite good. So they're going to take advantage of the bot side river to try and take the tempo lead after getting a Baron to potentially grab this 4th dragon of the game, which secured
the dragon only spawned just now. They couldn't start it up immediately while PTL was on the opposite side of the map. They will have the positional advantage.
If I'm Phantom Troupe,
are playing a bit cautiously. We don't quite have vision on the dragon health. We see it now. The equalizer does a lot to separate things out, but the amount of money that Phantom Troupe Lucifer has is just a bit too big. Ballistic Demon is auto-attacking away, though. Triple kill goes the way of the Ahri. Daddy Treasure in trouble. All the members of GCCe, the big ones, especially the Sivir. Buckby going to try to find the final kill on the Dark Archon. Won't quite find the moment. I had thought that perhaps with the initial engage that the damage wasn't quite there to be able to find the kills, but the eventual damage, the ramping damage of the Sivir, going to be able to do a lot of work there in that fight and start to turn things around for GCCe.
Huge misstep there. I really don't like that play, mostly because you have Baron buff. They're already positioned. Instead of running in and risking the fight, right, when you have this lead, you have a wave pushed up to their mid lane inner and bot a wave pushed into that. That's a bit riskier, right, because you know the position on Dragon. You don't even have to. You have Baron buff. Just ignore them. It's not soul. It's soul point. Shove down mid. Take 1, maybe 2 towers in exchange for that Dragon at 0 risk to yourself. Instead, they flip the fight. They lose the dragon, they lose the kills, and a decent chunk of their gold lane, and as well as the Baron buff, right? Now the only member of their team who has the Baron buff is their support of Dark Archon, who's not going to necessarily be the point guard for many effective sieges. So they lost a huge amount of the advantage they actually gained from winning that team fight, topside and converting into a Baron. That being said, it's definitely not the end of the world either. It's not soul. It is soul point. That was why you didn't fight it, and that's why the game is still very much playable.
Sanctum could be in trouble. The amount of damage getting burdened down from T-Die. He's stuck in the equalizer with how much CC this Leona has. That'll be yet another kill going the way of GCCe Hyrulean heroes.
That's where you type Rumble no flash in your team chat, and you move on with your day. Honestly,
Yeah, worth Rumble, no flash, easy target now. I mean,
exactly.
it is a big cooldown, not going to be available for the side of GCC. But, I mean, equally, at the very least, they do have Cinder around for that extra amount of damage. Buckby going to try to find the charm onto Barbar, not quite going to find it. The Unstoppable Force will find its way only onto Flock. Teleport finally arrived from Daddy Treasure, going to eventually use another grasp now onto Buckby, but there's just not enough damage just yet. It's too disjointed on the focus, and Ballistic Demon picks up a triple kill and an ace to the way of GCC. Hyrulean Heroes, this game has flipped on its head in the last few minutes.
Yeah, something very interesting I'm noticing in some of these fights is actually the interaction between the sides of Dark Archon versus
But it's a good
Buckby.
spell shield to be able to prevent the CC from the fate sealed by Sanctum, so won't quite be able to get the damage onto Ballistic Demon. That Cinder is quite all right. Luckily, Sanctum can just snap away and be okay.
So Buckby's going in trying to lock down Phantom Troupe's ADC, and so a Dark Archon is probably trying to peel them, but are you
Flashing forward, gets a
Oh.
shutdown onto the ADC Ballistic Demon. Not quite respecting the amount of damage that the Yone has been really good with these spell shields to prevent the CC, but you still gotta respect that Sanctum has a lot of damage available to him.
And the action continues.
Justin Crystal Arrow lands its way down onto Kagrid. Unstoppable Force finds its way onto T-Dive, but Barbar can't quite auto away onto said Rumble. But now as the Trundle goes down, T-Dive will be able to trade one back, but Barbar is just auto-attacking away, and it's a double kill going the way of GCC Hyrulean Heroes. Buckby going to land Charm down onto Sanctum, gets a big chunk out of that Yone. Does have access to a lot of lifesteal available, as well as those extra honey fruits, so he'll be able to recover that health pretty comfortably.
Yeah, soul point in a minute. So I'd like to see both supports walk down bot lane and get as much vision control as they can around that dragon, because that might be one of the crucial fights of this game to see whether or not Hyrulean Heroes can secure this change in momentum they've started to build up over the last few minutes and grab soul and try and flip this game on its head, or that the opportunity for Phantom Troupe to lock it back down to here and say, no, we are not giving you the opportunity to bring back the sort of mid-game deficit that they've had.
Importantly, Ballistic Demon has hit a 3-item power spike on the Cinder. It's the notable one that when you reach that point becomes a lot harder to deal with, as it'll only get more difficult as things goes on. We've seen Ballistic Demon starting to pop off in a few of these fights as well when they've been left ignored. Drake spawning up soul point to the side of GCC Hyrulean Heroes. Perhaps Barbar Jonks is the only one spotted. Another grasp goes down. The Fate Seal finds its way onto 2, but damage just isn't quite there. And Ballistic Demon autos away. Buckby's gone low. They'll get the kill onto the Ahri, but it won't quite matter. Ballistic Demon flashes forward. Double kill for the Cinder, and 4 kills all across the map. Kagrin's going to look to make it a clean ace for GCC. Won't quite find the kill onto Dragging It Out, but another clean fight for the side of the Hyrulean Heroes. They'll move down to the Drake. They'll look for the soul to be able to pick up their reward.
Yeah, great flank from Buckby. Forced the enemy DC to burn their cleanse, forced them to reposition, forced the entire team to split their attention between protecting their backline versus continuing to commit to this engage you're performing in River, right? So splitting that focus means that even though they do eventually take out Buckby, they're so low that the Trundle and Rumble running at you are just able to tear through you like wet sand or wet wallpaper.
Yeah, and picking up that soul will help out quite a bit as well, giving them a much larger pool of effective health. Baron is back up on the map as well. Saw Phantom Troupe Lucifer last time around, not really able to use that effectively. And now with GCC Hyrulean Heroes, for what feels probably the first time this entire game, having a gold lead, especially with how Ballistic Demon has kind of lived up to his namesake in these later fights, it's going to be a little bit difficult for the side of Phantom Troupe to be able to find much of anything at this point.
Yeah, Mental is incredibly important as well because you have very low damage items built from the side of Malphite, Rel, Malzahar, right? So you really only have Yone and Ashe who are building full damage. So that extra health bar is even harder to chunk through if you have another play like Buckby flanking and making so Ashe can't just free auto onto Hyrulean Heroes front line. Vision control getting set up right now around Baron. Second of the game. We'll see if it once again goes to Phantom Troupe or if Hyrulean Heroes continue to claim dominance over this latter half of jungle objectives.
I don't think either side will be exactly brave enough to start it up on their own. If there is one, it'd probably be GCCe with the advantage that they have, but even then, the resistance shred that Baron has brought back for itself. Death Bush coming in. Kagran's going to walk straight up to it. Buckby on the flank, trying to find a charm. Sanctum not quite going to hit anything. They're going to snap back and be okay. Everyone has arrived for this Baron. Buckby not quite going to get slowed up. Pillar not quite hitting the mark. Fuel cooldowns not available to either team, but nothing to really commit onto a really big fight for. It's very tentative times for these two teams. One team fight loss could absolutely swing things either way with how long these reset timers are on the respawns. Dark Archon just going to use a crash down to escape from the pillar. But just kind of pushing and shoving, poking and prodding, maybe to see if either team can find the angle they need to be able to find the fight, to be able to pick up this Baron and potentially the end of the game. But both sides will back off now. Phantom Troupe Lucifer going to give up on it. Recall not going to get spotted out from the side of Dark Archon. So we'll be all right. Kagran going to take a little chunk of health. We just kind of, once again, I kind of want to throw it over to you, Kai, but both
I know,
teams are
right?
They're threatening each other. They're looking for the final moment. Well, hold on, we didn't quite see it, but Buckby will find the pick onto the Ashe. That's one pretty big source of damage not available for Phantom Troupe Lucifer, and that's probably the angle that GCCe needed to move on to the Baron, in which they will.
Yeah, the Cold War, it could be broken at any moment. A Malphite Unstoppable forcing in, a Rel crash down, a Yone Fate Seal. Really, they can pull the trigger at any moment. At the end of the day, it's the Ryu finds the angle, takes that, what I imagine was a 1v1, catching out the Ashe on rotation. And yeah, Baron for Hyrulean Heroes. The goalie continues to fluctuate. Nearly 3k and a soul for Hyrulean Heroes to do what they can to break out the game, or to break open this game. As far as like key items, you mentioned the Silver 3M spike. Well, how is 4 items? We have a significant lead now there. You'll notice in the last couple of fights, it was still 3-3 for the marksman items, but Sivir's pulling ahead. 4 items, however, for Malzahar, but once again, Lignit's not a very high damage item. This Malzahar is great for utility, great for slowing. You have that max health percent damage in Leandri's that has been, nerfed over the last few months or so. So it doesn't quite do it at one state, but it's still, consistent damage. But you're not someone who can reliably 1v5 if protected. That's your Ashe. That to a lesser extent, that's your Yone. And it looks like Hyrulean Heroes is correctly identifying who their key targets are in the composition of their opposition and punishing them, almost before these team fights were really able to pan out.
And the charm will find its way onto the Rel. Buckby finds another pick, this time onto Dark Archon, which will ensure that another charm finds its way onto Daddy. Treasure will get the Sarah of Sprock, going to have to retreat to his own fountains to heal back up. Buckby going forward once again. Not quite going to opt to use the charm that time around onto the Malphite. Stepping back from Sanctum, but Barbar going to have to flash away from the pillar. Kagran goes forward, will be slowed up by all the CC. Won't quite go down just yet. Finally, no, Kagran stays alive with the amount of lifesteal and healing he has to sustain through. And despite everything, despite their early lead from Phantom Troupe Lucifer, GCCe, Hyrulean Heroes turn things around and close it out here in Game 1.
Yeah. I mean, for my money, that all comes down to the decision on the side of Phantom Troupe to take the Baron buff and take the fight in Dragon Pit. When you have that lead, your role as the team who's ahead is to take as few risks as possible because you have the goal advantage. You have the opportunities, the options to ensure you take the plays that should only work in your favor. And instead of taking the guaranteed goal that they could have taken from those towers, they chose to take the risky play. And that's where Hyrulean Hero was able to punish them, take advantage of the fact that they have a Sivir that, as you mentioned, is getting those key item breakpoints, and really lock down the enemy's sources of damage and take control of this game for the first win of this best of 3 series.
Yeah, and I mean, they kept their heads down, stuck in there. Turns out 11 kills on the Trundle. They have the Triforce in
The
their
Triforce difference. That's all
it's the
it
Triforce
was.
gap. Hyrulean Heroes with the Triforce. That's what they needed. It's in their logo.
Yeah. You've heard of losing to Shockkeep, and here it is, winning by Shockkeep.
Either way, it's a very valiant performance from the Hyrulean Heroes to be able to come back, recognizing they have that skill. And as you mentioned, finding that key fight to get all the Baron buffs off of Phantom Troupe Lucifer was, I agree, was a very big inflection point of this game. And yeah, well done to them to stay in there and take game 1. But we're going to send it to a break, and when we come back, we'll be in the draft of Game 2, see what Phantom Troupe Lucifer does to be able to adjust things around, and considering things probably don't need too much of it. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see how things pan out, though. Don't go anywhere.
Just wanna